Well, that was extremely disappointing. Obviously, to be in a position to win the game at the end of the game and to have the script totally flip on you with a block and then them getting into field goal range, it's tough. It's tough to deal with. But you better learn from each and every opportunity that you go out there in the wins and in the losses, and you got to move on. So, I thought there were a lot of things, a lot of positives in regards to how our defense competed and played through 4 quarters. But one thing that we have to get corrected is, when you have 14 penalties in a game, it's going to be tough to overcome that. So we got to do a much better job of coaching the fundamentals, the details, and then we got to lock in at a higher level in regards to some of the controllable penalties, whether it's false starts or offsides or whatever you have. But ultimately, this is a total team sport. I thought we played well enough defensively to win the game and didn't do a good enough job on offense and on special teams.
What happened on Jordan's interception that you saw?
Yeah, so they were playing man coverage, and the guy, Delpit, did a hell of a job. He passed off Tuck to the inside backer, and he fell off in the window. So, that's a bad play call. We shouldn't have called that play. That's on me. Yeah, but a lot of teams will do that when they're playing man free. They'll pass off an inside breaking route and then fall into that next window. So, it's just a bad play call. And what's unfortunate is our defense was doing so well, and we knew we couldn't make a deadly mistake like that offensively to give them a short field, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, we did. We absolutely did. We figured we'd have man coverage, which we got, and they did better than we did. So give credit to their staff and their players to go out there and execute it.
In a general sense, it seems like everybody's crowding the line of scrimmage on your offense or bringing people up. What do you have to do? Why haven't you been able to make them pay for that more? What do you have to do?
Well, we number one, I think early on they were getting to the quarterback. So a lot of those longer developing routes, if you're going to play man coverage, you got to be able to protect a little bit better. And I think it felt like from my perspective that he was under duress for the majority of the game. And so we got to look at just some of the things that we're asking our guys to do in terms of protection scheme. We got to do it better. We got to come up with better stuff for our guys to put them in better positions to go out there and compete.
You talked about cutting penalties. That's such a general thing that's hard to get a finger on. How do you cut down on penalties when they're happening in all different areas?
Well, it just depends what kind of penalties you're talking about. I think when you talk about pre-snap penalties, that is concentration, focus, just being dialed in the moment. When you talk post-snap penalties, whether it was we had a bunch of holding, that comes down to fundamentals and technique. So we got to coach it better, and we got to be harder on our guys if we see it in practice, because that's where it all starts. So we just ultimately we got to do a better job across the board.
What was the challenge getting anything going in the passing game, just with how much pressure they were getting?
Yeah, so we felt like you couldn't allow stuff to develop downfield, and when they did a good job of just mixing their coverages. I got a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz. He was better than us today, and better than me specifically.
What were you hearing on the sideline about these false starts? Was the crowd noise that great? Were the teams different? Was there anything?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I gotta go. We gotta regroup, get together, talk about it in the moment. It's not like I'm dwelling on that, asking it's just like next play. And so that's something that I'm sure I know our position coaches are talking about, but I'm not gonna sit there and have a dissertation in game. Like, you're trying to make adjustments, and obviously when you're going backwards, like it's hard to play football competitively in this league when you're sitting there in long yardage situations.
Did you see what happened on the field goal line?
It looked like too much penetration.
Do you think the team as a a whole came into this game based on how the first two games went with the right mindset and not taking these guys lightly.
Yeah, I mean, look at how our defense played. I mean, you give up, ended up being 13 points, but really there's no points after 3 quarters. So, like, I thought, yeah, I mean, certainly you could look at it. That's why it takes all 3 phases, but I don't think it was lack of mindset. I really don't. I think it was just we as coaches got to do a better job of putting our guys in better positions, and then ultimately we got to go out there and execute whatever it is we're asking these guys to do.
There were several times where you're trying to catch them with 12 men, and sometimes, even though it looked like you didn't actually sub, the refs would stop it and let Cleveland sub. What's the rule there?
Yeah, so one time we had one of our receivers walked off the field and then came back on the field, so they stopped it in that instance. Another time we had a tight end come on the field when we were trying to switch personnels, and like that's happened too many times this year. So we've got to get that fixed. Like, we've got to hold our guys, and especially if when a guy like Myles Garrett's out of the game, you want to try to jump the ball to keep him out of the game. You know.
So you want to keep doing trying to catch him with 12. You want to keep.
Or yeah, we caught him with 12 the one time, and we got a free play out of it. The one we had a challenge.
Were Tom and Banks trying to just cut it through after legitimate injuries, and was that the opposite?
Obviously, yeah. I would say if a guy plays one play, and so we got to have some discussions about, like, we can't allow that to happen. You know, it's disappointing when he plays one play. Banks, I don't think that was the case. He got, it was a different injury, so it is what it is. That happens.
2 more, please.
Coach, it might be early to ask, but do you think that you coach against a defense as good as the defense was today?
They did a hell of a job. They were ready to play. They were gassed up. I knew it was going to be a challenge. I mean, you look at what they did the first 2 weeks of the season versus a really good Cincinnati offense and versus a really good Baltimore offense. I mean, really, when you look at it, I think that score was totally misleading when you watch just, just the natural progression of that game. I mean, they had a fumble return for a touchdown. They had a pick down to the 5-yard line. So I knew going into this, like, it was going to be a dogfight, and it was going to be a challenge. And what's disappointing is, I felt like you could argue that we lost the game offensively by making a critical error in a critical situation. And so, that's a tough pill to swallow.
I know it could be a specific situation, but we ran Love out on the bootlegs, and he got some decent yardage. Could you done that more?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the call I was mulling in my head on that 3rd down. And I wish, hindsight's 20/20, and made a bad call. Should have gone with what I thought initially, and didn't work out.
Is it just because they're pursuing?
Yeah, they were selling out pretty hard. I mean, they made it a challenge, and that's a good defense. They got good personnel. They play extremely hard. You talk about just all the little things that are cornerstones of a great defensive football team, and it's obviously you got to have talent, you got to have sound scheme, and you got to have relentless effort to the football, and I think they have all that.
Yeah. No, we're running triple slant concept, and they're in man coverage, and I'm trying to work Wicks right there, number 2, and the safety that was guarding Tucker, fell off that, passed it off, and got in the window right there, and I didn't even see him. So, just really tough play, especially in the circumstances of the timing of the game right there. So, one we're just gonna have to learn from, move on.
Is that an automatic throw, like boom, boom, throw it, or what other options would you have had there?
No, it's a quick game. So, it's just taking that left-right footwork and throwing it. Obviously, I'm trying to get it out, but it's one of those you gotta be able to see him falling off. He did a great job making a play. I didn't see him, but something I've seen before. I gotta find a way to see him.
Did you feel, was there pressure on that? Like, did they bring in extra guys, or?
No, I think it was just 4-man rush, so I'm not sure. One of those ones I got to look at on film. But no, it's just one of those plays that, I got to feel him falling off.
How difficult was it to get anything going on the ground or in the air today?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It was tough. I think give them credit. They're a really good defense. I will say that. They do a lot of really good things, but I think the tough part for us is I feel like we're hurting ourselves more than anything with some of the penalties and just the little things. I feel like we were putting some good drives together, but at the end of the day, I feel like we just hurt ourselves a little too much. But like I said, give them credit. They're a good defense. We got to find ways to be able to go out there and take advantage of what they're doing.
It seems like teams are crowding it so far, the 3 games, but crowding the line of scrimmage quite a bit. What do you have to do to make them pay a stiffer price for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's when you got to hit shots down the field. But I think, looking at Cleveland's defense, that's their MO. That's what they want to do. They want to put extra hats in the box and stop the run and, force you to pass it. And they're going to play man and do different things and try and let the rush win. So we know that coming into the game, and that's what we're going to have to beat.
Jordan, in that, I think it was one that Denzel Ward tipped to, I think it was an out to Wicks. So right before that, you have a false start, and so it's 3rd and 9 instead of 3rd and 4. Is that the same play you would have done, or 3rd and 4 you probably done something different? And how did Ward play that?
Yeah, it was the same play we were running on the play before. They're in man coverage. He was rolling across with Wicks, and he did a good job. I think staying inside and just driving on that outbreaker. Obviously wish I would have been able to, just get it out quicker, put it out a little bit more, but he made a great play right there. But, that's one of those things where, crucial penalty right there that just moves us back, something that's an area we're going to have to clean up.
Jordan, was that about as much shuffling on the offensive line and moving on the fly as you've seen in a while that you can remember? And if so, what's the challenge there?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely, things that happened, Zach getting injured right there, Banks going out. So we were shuffling guys around, but, I think the first 2 games, that's kind of how it's been. Guys have shuffled in and done some good things. So it's one of those things. It's that next man up mentality. Everybody that suits up, be ready to play. And, I think those guys did a good job coming in on those short notice plays, but, it's tough.
What's your thinking leaving this game? You guys, I know it's early, but you came in riding pretty high. Parsons in, you win your first 2 games, playing an 0-2 team, and you put up a poor performance, especially on offense. What do you think of coming out of this?
Man, it's tough. It's a tough loss for sure. I think any loss is a tough loss. I think, like I said, there's a lot of stuff to clean up and improve on going forward. But it's one of those things, adversity hit. It's going to hit at some point, hit early on right now, and we're just going to have to do a great job of moving on, finding ways to clean up the areas that we need to clean up and move on to next week. It's a long season. It's the NFL. We know what it is. But it's definitely a tough loss, something that we're just going to have to grow from and move on and bounce back. But, adversity is going to strike at some point in the season, and it, struck today.
There was a lot of hype how the first 2 games good for you guys surrounding this team coming into today. Do you feel like internally you guys might have bought into that maybe a little too much?
Not at all. Not at all. I think we know what we are. We're a good team. We're still a good team. Like I said, this is a tough loss, but it's one we're just going to have to move on from, grow from, and obviously move on to next week.
Is there a feeling of kind of just stunned where you're 30 seconds left there, you're going to the field goal, then all of a sudden they're coming down the other way? Just kind of over that overall, the 4th quarter, is a feeling of just like we were up and then all of a sudden you're walking over the last. Very tough.
Very tough. I feel like just that whole 4th quarter, the way it went, obviously just wasn't good enough. Offensively, we weren't able to put a drive together, put up points, had a turnover. And then obviously, like you said, going to, kick a go-ahead field goal gets blocked. So it's tough. And obviously they go up and kick the game-winning field goal. And it just, that's why I said it feels a very tough loss and one of those games that, we let them, get it at the end. We had it. We just got to find ways to finish.
You had some success on those bootleg runs that you had. Do you think you could have whipped that a little more where they're constantly going for that fake and pressing hard?
Maybe. We'll look at it. There was definitely, some good plays made on some of those, but, it's just got to look at it and figure out what areas we need to keep calling and keep not calling. But, who knows? It's kind of the hindsight looking back on it, but it's something that we'll look at and figure out going forward.
Where you see John Fitzpatrick working, grinding it out day in and day out, how happy are you to see him catch his first touchdown in his NFL career?
It was awesome. You know, I think for a guy like that who's just, like you said, been grinding, doing things the right way, and obviously, you know, hasn't had too many ops to catch the ball, and he's been a great blocker for us. But, you know, when those ops come, you know, he made a big-time play right there, and, you know, happy for him.
Well, Matt said the interception play was a bad play call. I'm sure you wouldn't agree with that, but was there any conversation before the snap to run it and just play field position and maybe punt, or was that the only call that you guys talked about before the snap?
No, I mean, that was the call that came into the huddle. You know, we don't have time to, you know, sit there and obviously talk about different things on the field right there. But like I said, it's another play that is hindsight. You look back on it, obviously an interception happened, but who knows? You know, I like the coverage that they ran versus it. And like I said, they made a really good job, that safety falling off right there. If they don't fall off, I think we get a completion right there, move the sticks, and we'll be talking about it's a great call. So it's one of those things, it's hindsight. Got to figure out how to just move forward from it and grow from it.
Two more. Jordan, I don't know if you remember, in the first half, you got hit in a sack. You stepped up in the pocket, looked like you were looking downfield, like you had something, and then all of a sudden someone hit you from the side. Did you have something there? Do you recall whether there was someone open deep on that play?
I can't recall exactly what play you're talking about on that one. But there was a couple, you know, there was a couple plays where, you know, the rush just got home before some of the concepts were able to develop. So, you know, it's tough. Defense, you know, they get paid as well. So they did a good job on those ones.
How's your thumb, and do you know how many more weeks you're going to be wrapped? Is that still a few more weeks, you think? Or?
Yeah, it'll probably be a few more weeks. You know, I'm not sure specifically, but it's feeling good. But, you know, it's one of those things you just want to keep protecting it as much as possible and just keep going.